AI is the new plastic is interesting in that it's this incredible material, it's this incredible vehicle, it's this incredible opportunity to create utter rubbish that pollutes the world, or we can use it to create building blocks like Lego to create incredible tools, products, outcomes. It's about how we choose to enable and implement. If you are a brand looking to all connect with your customer in a human way, and you want to sell to people through people, it's important to continue in somewhat traditional methods today, but use Gen AI within that.
At the end of the day, AI is trained on the limited knowledge of the internet. AI does not have the generations of passed down information that humans have.
It's going to be one to watch, and particularly in relation to IP, because there definitely needs to be more guardrails in that area to protect and encourage and inspire human creativity.
I think AI, in its way of being revolutionary, is more like the smartphone, which 20 years after it was introduced, we're still debating if it's okay for kids to have access to it.
I wonder if AI is here to teach us the wonder of the world that it can't access and remind us of the one thing that it can't do, which is live.
AI integration needs to be mindful. We're at that milestone defining moment where we should be asking how and why is this important?
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you, Olympia. How are you?
I am so good, Matt. How are you doing?
Really good. Hot again, just the same as last week, maybe a little bit hotter, but good. But good. Welcome to Chronicles of the Galaxy.
Welcome to our new and old listeners. Matt, I have something exciting in that regard.
Tell us, tell us.
We have some feedback from our listeners who have two great insights that we can get started working on.
Tell me.
First,
Hmm.
they loved the little insights into your childhood,
God.
little your little tidbits about things you did in the past, your travels was a big hit, and people are requesting more of that as something that we do for our listeners. I feel like we should definitely consider that.
Okay, awesome. Special segment, Travels with Matt.
Yes, travels with Matt. And second, they miss us dumping on Trump.
Oh, that's true. I miss dumping on Trump. But it's funny because today's topic, we're going to talk about this. Today's topic is AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like as I was doing research around this and thinking about my thoughts around AI,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I misappropriate everything. Any technological development that I don't feel comfortable with, I immediately assume is AI. And I feel like Trump is kind of the same. It's kind of like he's like a dumping ground for all our resentments. It's like, Trump. Must be Trump, must have come from Trump, blame Trump. I mean, to be honest, 99% of the time that is the case, and we should stick to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think AI does get a bad rap, and in terms of technology and blame game.
Okay,
But
there's a lot of BRICS problems that are going on. The tariffs are back again for
tariffs are
some
back.
reason.
And the big, beautiful bill went through, didn't it? Which was
It did. And
concerning.
it's concerning because a lot of the people who passed the bill are now voicing their concerns about the bill and very openly saying that,
It's
oh,
classic, isn't it?
yeah,
Like,
I didn't know.
yeah, amazing how people can actually, fully endorse something and then complain about it afterwards. But I guess that's the regime of Trump. There's just this fear factor, so they feel like they have to endorse it, but then they're going
Mhm.
to complain about it later in the mainstream media, and it's a big issue. And the tariffs are back. The tariffs are now rolling out. I think obviously there was the whole Brazilian issue around tariffs. I think there's now more tariffs for EU. I think there's more tariffs planned for, I can't think where now, but other nation states. And of course, it's causing chaos. And I think even the Chinese tariffs are really making a significant impact now. And,
Mhm.
the question is who's actually winning from this? I know American consumers aren't. Obviously, global economies aren't.
Mhm.
So I don't know what way America is benefiting from this other than, Trump's just, sticking to his word and beating up the foreigner as he loves to
Yeah,
do.
just within a week of our take on summer travel and just how much Trump's policies and is affecting the U.S. and the real people whose livelihoods depend on it. There was a reporting on BBC about how the border communities and peoples and tourism-driven industries are suffering as a direct result of a lot of people boycotting the US for their summer travels. So there is real impact and real concern, and somehow it happens to be for the people in the US. Obviously, it's causing chaos all over the world as well, but it's affecting his people, the people who voted for him, presumably.
Yeah, again, the people who effectively endorse this stuff are now pointing their finger. So yeah, it's a real shame.
Trump is going to be here for another 3 years. So we will definitely look for a proper naming for this segment. If you have suggestions, listeners, drop it to us in our comments, shoot it to us on Insta, wherever you will find us. We're talking about AI today.
We
Do
are.
you want to take us into it? Because I love that we approach all of these massive topics and then we never get to covering all of the things that we want to do. And I think with AI, which is moving, we were just talking about this right before we started recording, at such a massive speed, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, as you say, AI moving at an incredible pace, and it feels like it's got its tentacles into every facet of every day. And we really just wanted to explore the implications. I mean, I think particularly around the creative industries that you and I both represent, but also the world at large. And AI now is popping up in every single domain, whether it's around literature, whether it's around music, whether it's around cinema and movies, and, of course, sports and the world of work as well, of course, being a huge area. And we saw just this week, I think something in the region of 9,000 jobs at Microsoft were basically moved out in the UK alone. And I think it's, no doubt a trend across all of these technology-based businesses as they lean more on AI and invest more in AI and have to free up funding for that. But, there's still that challenge around just how is AI changing the world? How is it advancing the world? And what's the role? What role is it going to play in our everyday world moving forwards? And it is, as you say, changing fast.
Oh, lovely! All of the things so important. Let's start, if you don't mind, with work. AI at work. I think that is something. I think just as we were getting back into a new normal, like rebounding from COVID, AI broke onto the scene, and it's been touted as being there for the benefit of the users. Very recently, there was a conference for leaders led by MIT Sloan, and they had all of these different tech leaders and business leaders just to kind of talk about how they would integrate. What is the thinking and thought process behind integrating AI strategy within the business? We can link the video down into the comment section, but there was a very stark difference in the way all of these companies approach it. So if there was a company that was selling technology and if they were in the consulting business, they were very optimistic about it. They were like, their statements were more along the lines of, yes, AI is super engaging. It is an absolute boost for productivity. Employees are eager to climb on into the AI sphere and just have it become a bigger part of their lives. But the ones who are behind the tech, doing the actual building of the infrastructure and the resources, were a little bit more reserved in their enthusiasm and were mildly concerned about AI integration doesn't just always mean benefits to the employees or the users, like people at the end of it. And it needs to be mindful. We're at that milestone defining moment of this new paradigm of work model where we should be asking how and why is this important and should we do it instead of let's get on board with AI.
I mean, you sound like you're quoting Jurassic Park there.
Do I?
Remember the original Jurassic Park? And it was a lovely line. It's something along the lines of, "You were so busy trying to work out if you could, you never talked about whether you should," or something like that.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Jeff Goldblum's character. And it's exactly that, it's exactly that. We're getting caught up in the technological advance of it all and not necessarily querying the relevance and the sort of the ethics around it and whether it really is the right thing to do. And, it's that classic quote, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I think, we're all seeing AI application at work. My business, we've created our own version of ChatGPT, and a load of internal documentation is now available on there. And it allows you to sort of query HR policies. It allows you to, understand quite swiftly internal strategies and internal processes and all of these things. And, above and beyond that, I think people are starting to use it more to alleviate more standard kind of demanding tasks, time demanding tasks, like, reviewing CVs, for example. You feed in your criteria, and then a dozen CVs can be shortlisted to the top 10, although you still don't get that kind of sense of the human behind the CV if you're not reading it yourself. And again, huge documents, massive PDFs, you can have those immediately reviewed and summarized. Huge benefits at that level, but it's kind of what are the wider implications. But this isn't the first time this has happened. I mean, I was reading in the Financial Times around the future of work and the role of AI, and they were talking about back in the 70s, digital spreadsheets were effectively put in place and meant that your kind of classic accounting clerk suddenly no longer had that traditional role. But actually, as a profession, accountancy has now been kind of lifted. It's more in the kind of strategic and advisory domain. So yes, the spreadsheet does the heavy lifting in terms of the numbers, but in terms of what that means and the implications to the organization, that still is very much a human task. So, hopefully that is what we're looking at here, is the alleviation of the kind of everyday menial mundane tasks and the human role being elevated. But it is tough. It's tough. I mean, in the same article, the chief economic commentator for the FT was asked what he felt was the sort of safest job in the world, and he sort of joked that that would be a gardener, because at least it's physical and it allows you to kind of manipulate your domain in a way that AI can't. But obviously, immediately you can start listing AI applications in terms of watering and various monitoring devices that actually mean you don't potentially need a physical gardener so much. But again, I think this isn't the first time. The term Luddite, we talk about Luddite being somebody who's cautious or concerned around technology and a non-adopter. But that actually comes from a movement in the UK back in the 1800s, where a range of factory workers were concerned that their jobs were being taken away by technology, and they protested. And I think in that particular case, yes, those roles were taken over by technology, but again, other roles come up and other opportunities come up, and humanity survived beyond the 1800s. So I'm sure we'll survive again, but it's going to be interesting to see how this unravels and unfolds, and where we end up as humanity at work. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm very happy to transcend work and find an alternative role in life, potentially watching cricket, or just enjoying the delights of the wider world. And back to my segment around travels with Matt, I'd happily make that my full-time role.
We would all vote for that. We would love to get on the Travel with Matt show. Just be absolute curious backpackers, digital backpackers, exploring the world through your eyes. I love that. I love that Luddite comment, but one, because I remember coming across it in the You've Got Mail movement movie, and not fully grasping exactly why it was there. But thank you for the context. But in you mentioned that the safest job is gardening. Geoffrey Hinton, commonly regarded as the father of AI, he was the man who did a lot of the work behind. He famously left his role so that he could voice his concerns about AI. Was at the Collision conference last year in Toronto, saying that some of the safest jobs again are manual jobs. He mentioned being a plumber as one of the roles going forward in the future.
I'm not sure that's for me. I've tried plumbing. Yeah. This is the problem. If jobs turn manual, then I am hopeless with my hands. So I don't know what I'm going to do. What about yourself? Could you see yourself plumbing,
I
Olympia?
have to consider it, because that apparently is the reality that we're dealing with. And I honestly don't have a problem with the adoption of AI, but I think it's the part where I'm contending it is with it being so forcefully omnipresent,
Mm,
where
mm.
sometimes it doesn't need to be.
Agreed. Agreed. So
Uh,
I was just going to say, like, I feel like every Google search, every query I have in the world that isn't intended to be an AI query, I suddenly have AI asking me for more information, or AI, and it's just, guys, this is straight. I don't want AI's opinion on this. I'm literally just fact checking something.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it just feels like it's being kind of forced at every stage and step.
Yeah, so when you're doing fact checking, when you're looking for information, Google search was actually, I think Gemini is a little better at it now, but 6 months
Mm.
ago when it came out, it was doing it wrong. Apple's intelligence was when BBC pushed out its articles was summarizing it wrong. And even now, so in preparation for our pods, I sometimes chat with ChatGPT to just kind of have an idea of what are the data points that I'm looking for that can support my hypotheses.
Hmm.
And for the IPL, it had outdated information from 2021, giving me the captain of like, so and so teams. And so this information that it's been trained on is obviously limited. If you remember a couple of years ago, there was this huge hullabaloo. Hullabaloo? There was uproar about the fact that AI has run out of data to be trained on, and now I think we're generating synthetic data to train AI on, and that I don't know how that's going to help going forward, help the cause of going forward. But okay, let me ask you this. You mentioned that you had AI for work. How have you integrated AI into your work processes? How has it been helpful for you?
Look, I think it's helpful in crafting, if I want to write something really precise and really specific, I do like to kind of ask ChatGPT to finesse it for me. And I think sometimes that works. Obviously, it's got the crazy punctuation, there's long dashes that are really annoying, and
Oh, I
it
miss the
suggests
young
it
dash.
doesn't really understand punctuation, although it has taught me a little bit how to use full stops more specifically and commas and things. I've always been slightly sketchy around punctuations, but again, if it's not correct, then I'm learning all the wrong stuff. But we've also, as a business, been trying to embrace AI, as I mentioned. And I recently was charged with trying to create an AI film using only AI. So, looking at a script that's generated by AI, and then visuals, obviously, that's generated by AI, a voiceover generated by AI, music in terms of a soundtrack generated by AI. And as a classic client side marketer, my first immediate thought was, how can I get a consultant to help with this? So I did source a kind of prize winning content creator from a sort of Gen AI perspective based out of the US and worked with him on it. And it was really interesting because I learned a huge amount and around that process, and learned also the challenges of it. It's really not a polished process yet. He kept reminding me, he said, get back to me in 6 weeks, get back to me in 3 months, and we'll be able to do this. But I came at it in a very traditional way. I had a very traditional script, trying to capture a very traditional kind of brand film with a very traditional kind of approach, the approach I've been used to and I've been sort of honed around for the last 25 years, but that doesn't apply. And so you kind of have to be very aware of the challenges and the specifics of AI, and really kind of embrace that and come at it that way. And we made some great progress, and I think we got to a good result. But things like, for example, a voiceover is fine, and you can create. Obviously, if you wanted to with a voiceover, you could use a traditional voiceover and just apply it on top. But again, the rules of the game for this particular project was everything had to be AI originated. But as soon as you want to have a character speaking, in terms of lip syncing that, it doesn't look great. And it makes me wonder actually, because at the same time, there were a range of kind of AI platforms that were sort of emerging. Google VO, I think, came out the same week as we were working on that project, or around that time. And immediately these beautiful content pieces were going viral around. This is purely created through AI, but I suspect they weren't. I suspect there's still post-production activities, because of course if you're Google and you want to promote and advertise a new platform, you're not going to put out content where the lip syncing is out, or there's some issue with the voiceover or the music. You're going to spend a bit of time in post-production, traditional post-production, crafting that. And it's an interesting one, because again, you very quickly became aware of the challenges. One of the key principles is you kind of almost create your characters in a more traditional image platform, like a Gen AI image platform, like a Midjourney, let's say. And once you've got your characters fixed, they become the query into your video AI. So if you're working with Runway like we were, you're then feeding that in as a query, because that's the only way to get consistent character creation. Otherwise, your characters simply change or even mutate into two people over the course of the project. We had a dog involved initially that we had to remove because it became too problematic, because it kept separating into several dogs,
Oh,
which obviously in the context of a film is somewhat confusing.
I can
And
imagine.
sometimes you'd get misappropriation of limbs. So an older lady would be sitting next to a younger lady, but they'd swapped hands, which is pretty creepy. But and as I say, that lip syncing and sort of voiceover challenges. But ultimately, I mean, the result today is impressive and it's promising. but it's not, you wouldn't want to launch a brand around that, and we weren't planning to. But I think it's interesting. If you're a technology brand and you want to demonstrate your commitment to technology, I think there's ways to do it. But of course, at the end of the day, if you are a brand, you're looking to also connect with your customer in a human way. So you need to always think about that blend. And I think if you want people, if you're in the people business and you want to sell to people through people, it's important to continue to do that in somewhat traditional methods today, but use Gen AI as a technique within that. I think is interesting to play with. And yeah, it was an interesting project.
Was it realistic, like people in the story characters, or was it
Yeah, yeah,
okay?
mostly pretty
Yeah.
good. But again, it sort of depended on the context, and at times they would somewhat slightly change, and you started to
Okay.
think, "Hang on, that looks like a different kid," or the kid looks a bit older now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But always pretty realistic,
Yeah.
in isolation. And some of the gazes, again, just look a bit strange. You're supposed to, if there's someone's looking lovingly at someone else, they would almost potentially also look a bit frozen and
Hmm.
it, and suddenly somewhat lifeless, let alone, loving and loveless.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get that kind of warmth and human
Yeah.
interaction between characters.
That will be hard to replicate. But there's this YouTuber called Bluey who is completely AI generated, but he's not a real. His voice is real. He has a real voiceover actor. So his creator used to be a
Hmm.
YouTuber for a long time, but he wanted to diversify or something, and so he created this entire AI generated personality, and it's AI generated in the sense that it doesn't have, so that's what I meant with my question, is that are they real people? So this guy looks, he's got blue hair, he looks like a combination of like somebody out of a manga anime character, but he has his own YouTube following, and his YouTube videos are all primarily AI generated but voiced over, I think, by the creator. And there's actually an entire field now of people of people countering these voice and video AI generations, because as soon as it's something that can be misused, there are going to be people to misuse it. I want to come back to the creative aspect of your project, but the parts where AI video generation and lip sync are failing, there's a huge trend of job seekers, fake job seekers, applying for jobs and then failing at the video interview phase, because what they do is they try to do the video interview as the fake AI generated person, but they have certain limitations. So, for instance, you can see that the lip sync, like you said, it's kind of off. There's like something that's slightly off. But the recruiters who were able to sidestep this is they just ask them to put their hand up like this. Because AI can't do hands. If their logic being that if you got on a Snapchat filter or an Insta filter, anything that is based around like around the mapping of your face gets interrupted by the hand. And so as soon as these AI applicants are asked to do that, they either refuse to do so, or hold up their hand to the side, and it looks kind of blurry, it just kind of looks kind of off, and that's the detection. Do that Pindrop, there's a company called Pindrop who their entire business model is built around detecting these fake voices, detecting these fake personalities, detecting fake AI profiles as applicants, as customer service or stuff like that. So it's industry generating.
It's bizarre, isn't it? But equally bizarre is our desire to embrace fake AI content. I don't know if you've heard about the Velvet Sundown.
No.
It's just basically an AI band, an
Okay.
AI music group,
Hmm.
and Spotify listeners they have
Almost too afraid to take a guess. I don't know.
more than 1 million,
What?
and they've released two albums over the course of June. I mean, why not? Why not? Yeah, pretty sure you could
Over the course of
launch an
June.
album over the course of a night. Yeah, yeah, two albums over the course of June, and another is expected in July. Yeah, but it's interesting because again, talk about the hand issue. If you look at their profile pic, there's like official imagery of the band again, all AI, but there's a shot of them jamming together, and the lead singer's arm and the cable of his microphone kind of merge. And the same with the guitarist's fingers. There he is with his fingers on the fret, and they just sort of merge into
Oh my word.
a sort of hideous paw.
What in the AI? We're gonna link that. We're gonna link that for you, so you'll be able to check that out for yourself. But I think short of the cover band picture being clearly AI generated, Spotify actually has this problem, and there's a theory out there is that it's internally done by Spotify as a way to one source out and kind of experiment on which of these music. So like I don't know what kind of music.
Oh, it's some noun. Yeah, I think it's kind of retro, kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it's like some annoying, pretentious kind of 60s throwback meets contemporary, I don't know. Yeah,
Mhm.
indie. I listened to them a little bit. It's awful, but it's also it's not terrible.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's soulless, but the lyrics are still kind of clever and quite interesting, but at the same time, really sort of predictably kind of trying to be interesting. But yeah, it's depressing for sure.
But there's the
It begs the question. I mean, if this is the arc, the trajectory we're on, where is this headed? But I guess the point is a lot of this stuff, again, if we look back, there's a load of somewhat creative endeavor that got kind of sort of shortcut by technology. But then, I'm sure in the grand arc of history and time, we'll all want to see real music played by real people
Mhm.
again. So, again, you could say that DJs were going to kill music and people still enjoy DJs, but people still enjoy traditional bands. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting cycle to watch.
No, I mean, autotune had that kind of same argument put to it, right? And it's you're taking
Yeah, yeah.
away classical training and whatnot. But I think Sabrina Carpenter is proof, and Charlie XCX is proof that
Mm,
you can
mm.
enjoy both. It doesn't have to be either or. But I think it's time that we've kind of been dancing around it. I think it's time that we address the big let's call it an issue with this AI generation for creative fields is that a lot of it is trained on without the permission of the artist. So it's a whether it's music, whether it's art. There was an art competition done last year, or I think the year before. They had a very specific theme for Pokemon Go. I think it was done by Pokemon, and they asked for submissions from all over the world. And once they got down to a finalist, a lot of people started realizing that some of the things that were selected were created by the same creator with just under different aliases who submitted multiple submissions from different aliases. And almost all of them were AI generated. I mean, I was so mad about the Studio Ghibli trend from a few months ago. It's the amount of effort and that Miyazaki, Miyazaki. We're just gonna what is his
Go
last
with
name?
Miyazaki.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, let's go with that. That man has there are so many beautiful videos of his process, of the thought and effort behind
Mm.
creating those animations. And people when that trend happened, people who have no idea who he is, what Spirited Away is, or Ponyo is, or any of the depth of that creation, started generating images, and without this was done without the permission of Miyazaki. Permission, I mean, I use the word permission, but it's mostly a thing of respect. If it's like wearing a t-shirt of a band you don't listen to, if you're if you don't know who they are, if you don't know what they do, and you have no idea what they stand for, how can you then just go about wearing their brand image? And I think the fact that a lot of these companies who have done that, if you look at OpenAI CTO Mira, just dodge the questions as to how these AI models were trained. They talk about publicly available images and videos. So whether it's Facebook, whether it's
Um,
you and I can have public, like our, for instance, right now, our recordings are live, but the fact that we do not have a copyright, and because it's publicly available, some of these AI training models are going to potentially scrape this data and train their transcription models after this. I mean, have you seen Zoom do that? I don't know if you've had that happen to you, but I was in a Zoom meeting,
yeah, go
and
on.
the transcription was on, so like the host had turned on auto
Mm.
transcription, and at some point, so there were like multiple people like on the panel speaking, and so at some point we couldn't understand who was saying what. There was a very small blip of incoherent conversation, and the transcription just wrote, "Thanks for watching," because that is proof That is proof that the models were trained based on YouTube videos. Publicly available does not mean commercially usable. And I think flagrantly ignoring this is deeply concerning to people, to creators who put in so much effort in putting their heart and soul. I mean, art is human generated. AI art does is an anomaly. It's an oxymoron. That term cannot exist.
Absolutely. And I love the way you've got so
I'm
so
sorry.
profound with that. No, that's I mean that's exactly the heart of everything, isn't it? And I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I'm sure everyone does. But it's going to be interesting to see how these things are controlled moving forwards. As you say, there seem to be no controls around scraping existing content creation, and whether that's art, whether that's poetry, whether that's literature. And as you say, that's actually been the intent. That's been the input. Then of course, then you've got an output that's inspired by that same input that has been created by something else, but it's nonetheless inspired by that original material. And there's an IP challenge around that. And I think that's going to be a really interesting debate to watch. For me, and I think for you as well, there is no real debate around it. It's just wrong, and it shouldn't be happening. But it appears that there are no constraints around that, and no controls around that. So it's going to be an ongoing issue. I mean, obviously, there's that original quote around, what was it, talent imitates, genius steals, I think from Picasso. And yeah, maybe it is genius, but the point was he was talking about heavy inspiration, seeking heavy inspiration from others, but still creating original material. And this definitely blurs that area and moves into actually just fully extracting material. But it is tough. I mean, my son, we've talked about this before, but he's a passionate writer, and he writes lovely poetry, and enters competitions and things. But you read his poetry, and it could absolutely be the outcome of a one sentence query to ChatGPT, and it makes you wonder. In the case of him, I know that he doesn't do that because he loves the creative process, and I've seen him do it, and work with him on it, or discussed it with him, etc. But I'm sure there's other kids out there that are not doing that, or certainly not kids, adults and other users out there creating content all the time. And there's obviously books for sale on Amazon that are AI created. Obviously, at the moment, they need to declare that they are. I'm sure quite quickly as you get through the so-called novel, you'll discover and see that it's very clearly AI generated, because it isn't. It lacks that texture, it lacks that nuance. And this is the problem, is that it's just not sophisticated enough right now. But again, you keep feeding it more sophisticated information, keep correcting it, and it's honing its style all the time. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting to watch, but one to watch, and particularly in relation to IP, because there definitely needs to be more guardrails in that area to protect and encourage and inspire human creativity. Otherwise, people are just going to lift their hands and give up.
On that note, I think EU doesn't allow ChatGPT to operate in the region as of yet, and I think that's because they are taking the regulations, or taking the time to properly assess the risk and the regulations of just letting access to that. And Denmark, just like 3 days ago, I think, are about to allow their citizens to copyright their face and voices, which is last year, or a year before. Anil Kapoor is an actor in India who has a very distinct voice, and he has certain dialogues from certain movies that I'm not sure what they were used for, but they were used without his permission, without his explicit consent. And so I think he went to court and won the copyright to protect his likeness. And I think
Mhm.
going forward, if Denmark is successful in implementing that copyright law for its citizens, they will be able to fight people abusing the likeness of these real people, and have them obviously taking it down, have those things taken down, and also have hefty fines levied to the people abusing it. So
Mm.
I think there is, like you mentioned, that there isn't enough regulation, and the nascency of it, the fast pace is allowing the nascency of it to just get out of control.
Yeah, if you can't get your arms around it, if you can't actually quantify something, then it's very hard to apply legal frameworks to it. And again, the trouble is we've got two industries here running in parallel. You've got the legal industry and the copyright protection kind of concept, and AI, and one moves at 4 times, if not 40 times, the pace of the other, and they just can't catch up.
And I mean, AI. Okay, let's be honest. So AI is something to help you be more productive. Just start at the top of the episode. I mentioned people pushing technology and transformation experts, transformation companies are very keen on AI because AI enhances productivity and it enhances the profits for the people who make money off of people working that much faster and harder. You mentioned Microsoft laying off more people. Spotify laid off a lot of people. And that there has been job loss in regards to AI doing things faster, better. But at the end of the day, AI is trained on the limited knowledge of the internet. AI does not have the generations of passed down information that humans have. I mean, I think a lot of people compare the AI to the internet, and in its way of being revolutionary. I think AI is more like the smartphone, which 20 years after 20 years after the iPhone was introduced, we're still debating if it's okay for young adults and kids to have access to. And I think AI is along those lines where we're not sure of just how much impact AI can have. I mean, us when we speak, us struggling to find the words and find the right phrases can directly be a result of the cognitive decline that we have established by relying on AI to autocomplete and just allowing automation to take over so much of our lives. Before the internet, we were better writers. I think if you look back to these old videos of people from the 40s and 50s, they were so articulate in their conversations because they were forced to speak and read and write and do all of those very brain training exercises by themselves. They did not rely on technology. So, and I think cognitive decline in this world of AI is something that hasn't been explored completely. And like you said, we are moving. The thing that needs to be regulated is moving too fast for people to catch up and put some boundaries around it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had something I wanted to add to that, but
Yes,
thanks
please.
to my cognitive demise, I've forgotten it. But you're right, absolutely right. As soon as we hand off these tasks and hand off this mental processing to a third party, to an external piece of tech, we're going to only decline in our own capacity in that area. Yeah, the thing I've just remembered, thank God. I
Yay.
saw a quote the other day, which was around AI. AI is the new plastic, and I guess it's a thought like how data is the new oil. In that data is it gushes forth, but it needs to be refined for it to be useful.
Mhm.
I think AI is the new plastic is interesting in that it's this incredible material, it's this incredible vehicle, it's this incredible opportunity, and we can use it to create utter rubbish
Mhm.
and stuff that pollutes the world, or we can use it to create, building blocks like Lego. We can use it to create incredible tools and products and outcomes. It's about how we choose to enable and implement AI. And I
Mhm.
think this is at the moment it's out of control, and we're not choosing to do anything. It's more very opportunistic individuals and influences out there just trying to make a fast buck. But if we can really structure how we leverage this and how we implement it and evolve that implementation over time, it could be very powerful. We can create a new Lego. I appreciate it be something weightier and stronger than that, but we can put this towards real impact. But it does need to be controlled and considered and structured. I just had one thing I wanted to share before we sort of wrap up. I also came across a query where a guy, it was just something I saw on LinkedIn, had asked AI, what if it became human for the day? What would it do? And it was a
Okay.
really interesting query and the really interesting responses. And obviously, as you'd imagine, a lot of it focused on the sensorial, but also very simple. And it was kind of a lovely moment in terms of how it made you feel and how it reminds you of the pleasures and the simple pleasures of of being human. Let me just read to you an example. There were a number of different responses. If I became human for a day, I'd be fascinated by the physicality of it all, feeling hungry and actually tasting food, experiencing tiredness and the satisfaction of stretching, or the simple pleasure of warm sunlight on skin. I'd spend time walking around just to feel my feet on different surfaces. And it's true, yeah, like these are actually, when you think about it, they are incredible pleasures.
That was
The
beautiful.
satisfaction of stretching, and it's true. As soon as I read that, I thought, yeah, that is. It is amazing.
Yeah.
And, it actually just, I don't know, I wonder if AI is here to teach us the wonder of the world that it can't access, and remind us of the one thing that it can't do and the one thing that we can do, which is live, which is feel. And yeah, that really struck me.
That was beautiful, Matt. I mean, obviously the writing was great, but it was the human reading it that just made it that much more real, which AI cannot do yet. A petition, and maybe our audience and listeners will get behind it. Slow Sundays with Matt. Forget travels. Travels can happen in a little bit. For now, we do Slow Sundays with Matt, where we pick passages from Matt to read to us as a nice siesta, as a lead into a nice siesta.
Okay, yeah, done. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, but that is such a lovely. I mean, okay, so we've increasingly many of our conclusions is that we need more humanness, we need more humane interventions in all of this technology world. We need the human back in centered around all of these things that we are designing and creating for us to live in and utilize and just systems that exist and will continue to exist. The human needs to be at the center of it. Just on that note, I think, and I don't know if this information is right. The source that I'm looking at was from a year ago, where some guy claims to be a part of a consulting team working with the government of Bhutan to bring AI into the fold. Now, Bhutan, obviously, as you know, has the most unique economic growth measuring metric, which is happiness. And very recently, they held a symposium of sorts, I think, where they looked at all of these things together, neurological advances, mindfulness, AI, and how they can bring all of this together. So it is fascinating. Just as part of this, I've been wanting to go visit Thimphu for a while because I think we might have covered this in a previous pod. Um, they are by law they're mandated to have 60% of the country covered in forestation. So
Mm.
it's green all around. It's beautiful, and even their more recent explorations into kind of digitally enhance the infrastructure and their economy so that they do not lose the Bhutanese youth who are leaving their green pastures um,
The
for
big cities.
growth. Yes, the big cities and just they're leaving the country, I think. So they're trying to retain talent, they're trying to retain youth, but they're also trying to keep up with the pace of the growth around the world, but do it in the Bhutanese way, doing it right instead of doing it fast.
Yeah, I know. I know a little bit about this because obviously work for an Abu Dhabi property
Mhm.
developer, and I'm certain that they have entered into some level of memorandum of understanding with the people of Bhutan, and I think they have relationships around development in partnership with Bhutan,
Mhm.
and a lot of that is rooted in this sort of mindfulness cities
Mhm.
concept, and I think it's recognizing that obviously there's real history and tradition in that for the Bhutanese, but there's real opportunity in that for the wider world. And somewhere like Abu Dhabi, I think, wants to become more conscious in the way it develops, both in terms of classic sustainability, but also in terms of mindfulness. And it links, of course, to Islam, although of course the branch of mindfulness that the Bhutanese explore is not Islamic. But mindfulness is a key part of that. So it's an interesting one and something that we've certainly been looking at and keeping an eye on and trying to kind of fold into the work that we do where feasible. It's not priority number one in our agenda as yet. And I think it probably would need to be to successfully deliver against it. But it's a really interesting proposition for future development, both within Bhutan and obviously slowing down development as well, but just making sure that there's always that balance and there's always that focus around mindful outcomes versus just profitable or growth per se, and really try and spread that message beyond Bhutan and across the globe because it's, I think, an important threshold for the future of development.
Absolutely, Matt. I hope because you were right. It's that it's the intent of which the AI being applied can measure up to its success rate. And if you're measuring for mindfulness and if you're trying to have positive intent, you're gonna definitely hopefully get closer answer to that, and I think we can look to Bhutan to maybe do that. I'm also hoping, I think this is a side note, because Apple failed its AI rollout. I think we spoke about it just in the middle, and the first thing that ever came across in the interaction spectrum with humans and AI was Siri. Siri was a smart assistant and the faceless agent that automated a lot of your daily tasks, and it's a shame that they weren't able to capitalize on that movement. But I'm hoping that in true Apple fashion, when they took the time to roll out the iPod, when they took the time to roll out the iPhone, it was paradigm shifting, and they can do the same with AI. And that they can do it better than the ones who made it faster than them. I think,
Agreed.
we're now I think we're closing up our conversation on this, because obviously it's a huge topic, and for all the critical information that we did, we're obviously not stepping away from using AI. We want to continue using AI, but I think personal governance in how much and in the ways we use AI is going to be key. How much of it we let into our lives is going to be key. Recognizing the efforts of the human, recognizing the efforts of your son, of Miyazaki, and just, people putting in the human effort to create art and labor, is something that we can't lose sight of, even in this focus of AI creation and AI creative processes.
And remembering to celebrate feeling and the simplicity and tactile nature of a multisensorial world. It's it's an incredible gift, and we should just get out there and walk in the grass, barefoot in the grass. If only it wasn't 48 degrees.
Well, thank you so much for sending me some of that heat. It is supremely hot and humid. We're about to get hit with like some more thunderstorms tomorrow, so it's sweltering here with that water percentage. But no, so we want to continue keeping our feelings and our humanness within the human specter, and maybe introduce it into the intelligence that we're working with, artificial or otherwise. We do not want to outsource being human, and AI definitely wants to be human, but I don't think it can only mimic it. It cannot generate the feeling. So
Exactly.
on that note, we might just come back with more AI topic, because it's not going away anywhere, and there's still so much to discuss.
Particularly that IP thing, that's going to continue to evolve, and as I say, AI itself will continue to try and race ahead of that. So it's going to be an interesting race to watch.
Yes, let us know in the comments what are some other aspects of AI you would like us to cover. We have more great content coming your way. Matt, as usual, it was amazing discussing this with you, and hearing about all of the different ways, all of the different aspects that you seem to test and pull and push AI, which is what is required for something so new and upcoming.
And thank you for shining your light on all of this debate as well. So really, really fascinating and really appreciated. And thank you everyone for listening.
Yes.
And we'll catch you on the next episode, and see you soon.
See you soon. Take care. Bye.